So today, we're diving into a really powerful story from early Islamic history. It's a story about incredible courage and conviction, and about how a completely ordinary person can be transformed by an extraordinary mission. And it all kicks off with one of the most audacious proposals you can imagine.
Right, so get this. Our story starts with a letter. A man named Musailmah, who had actually declared himself a prophet, sends a message to the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. And he doesn't just ask for a little recognition. No, he demands an equal share of everything. He's proposing they literally split Arabia and even the mantle of prophethood right down the middle. I mean, the sheer audacity of that claim, it really set the stage for a massive confrontation.
You can't just ignore a challenge like that, right? Musailmah's claim wasn't just political. It struck at the absolute heart of the Islamic message: one God and one final prophet. So this demanded a response that was going to be crystal clear, direct, and completely unambiguous.
And the difference between these two messages is just, well, it's night and day. There was no room for negotiation, no diplomacy, just a simple, powerful truth. The prophet's reply was incredibly blunt. He was the true messenger of God, and Musailmah was nothing but kadhab, which means the liar. This wasn't just turning him down. It was a public branding of his falsehood.
So that brings up a huge question. Who is going to deliver this letter? I mean, think about it. You're being asked to walk into the court of a powerful, prideful man surrounded by his army and hand him a letter that calls him a liar to his face. That's basically a suicide mission. Who would possibly have the courage to take on a task that dangerous?
So, as the prophet looked around for a volunteer, the person who stepped forward wasn't some famous, battle-hardened warrior or a seasoned diplomat. He was, by pretty much all accounts, a very unlikely hero for a mission this critical.
Let me introduce you to Habib ibn Zaid. This was a simple man. He sold dates from a basket on his head in the streets of Medina just to support his huge family. We're talking a father to 11 or 12 kids, some of them still babies. And he wasn't known for being physically strong or anything like that. He was an everyday person, just like any of us.
But his passion for this mission, it was incredible. They say when the call was made, Habib was actually in the middle of eating a date. He jumped up so fast that pieces of it literally flew from his mouth. He was desperate, begging not to let this opportunity pass him by, shouting that if the duty was given to someone else while he was just sitting there eating, he wouldn't be able to live with himself. His eagerness was just overwhelming.
So he was given the prophet's own horse to ride and his personal spear to carry. And in that moment, Habib ibn Zaid was transformed. He wasn't riding as a humble date seller anymore. He was now a determined emissary heading straight into the lion's den, the court of Musailmah himself.
And his entrance was pure drama, pure defiance. He strides into the court with total confidence, takes the prophet's spear, and plants it into the floor with a thud. When Musailmah demands to know who he is, Habib just shoots back. "Can't you tell from my face that I am a servant of the messenger of God?" He showed absolutely zero fear before he handed over that fateful letter.
And then, the letter was read out loud, for the entire court, all his followers, his soldiers, to hear. Musailmah was branded the liar by the Prophet Muhammad. The public humiliation was just immense, and as you can probably guess, he became absolutely enraged.
With his authority completely challenged and his pride just shattered in front of everyone, Musailmah turned all of that fury onto the messenger. And right then, Habib's faith was about to be put to the most brutal, unimaginable test. Sword in hand, his eyes probably red with rage, Musailmah stands in front of Habib and asks him this direct question. He's demanding that Habib personally weigh in. He's essentially saying, either you agree with my prophet and die, or you renounce his words and save your skin. Habib's response? It was instant, absolute. He basically says, there's no opinion to have here. The matter is settled. If my prophet calls you a liar, then you are a liar. And nothing on earth, not even the water of 7 seas, can ever wash that lie away. His conviction was just completely unshakable.
Well, this defiance just sent Musailmah completely over the edge. He strikes out with his sword and severs one of Habib's arms. But even then, bleeding and in agony, Habib just stands his ground. So Musailmah, thinking that this incredible pain must have broken him, he repeats the exact same question.
But even after that horrific act of violence, Habib's answer didn't change one bit. His resolve, his faith, it was clearly made of something far stronger than flesh and bone. He just repeated his belief, his faith completely intact.
Now, in a fit of just pure fury, Musailmah strikes again, cutting off Habib's other arm. And then he threatens him with death, believing that surely this ultimate fear, the fear of death itself, would finally make him give in.
Habib looks at this tyrant and basically laughs in the face of death. He calls Musailmah a fool. "You fool," he says, "are you really threatening someone whose very first prayer every single morning is to be granted martyrdom?" For Habib, you see, death wasn't a threat at all. It was a prayer just waiting to be answered.
And with that final, incredible act of defiance, the confrontation reached its inevitable, solemn end. Habib's journey on this earth was over, but believe me, his story was far from finished.
The story goes that as Musailmah, with his own hand now trembling, delivered that final fatal blow, something profound was happening hundreds of miles away. Back in Medina, at that very same instant, tears welled up in the eyes of the Prophet Muhammad. He felt the loss of his beloved companion at the very moment it happened. He then turned to his other companions and announced what he knew had just transpired. He said, "My Habib has been martyred." But then he shared the beautiful outcome of that incredible sacrifice, that God, in recognition of his unwavering, unbreakable faith, had opened all the gates of paradise for him.
And so, the story of Habib ibn Zaid leaves us with this really powerful question to think about. What gives a person that kind of strength? What is the source of that courage that allows an ordinary person, a father, a simple date seller, to face down a tyrant and endure unimaginable pain without ever once wavering? It's a profound look at how deep true conviction can transform a humble individual into an absolutely unwavering force.